Hello and welcome to the program. There are 1.4 million internally displaced people registered in Ukraine. They make up for 4% of voters in Ukraine. Now, IDPs have both right and opportunity to vote in the upcoming presidential and parliamentary elections. However, they must follow a special procedure to access their right to vote, and many are not aware of this procedure. Now, to talk more about the voting rights of internally displaced persons in Ukraine, we're joined in the studio today by Darina Tolkach. She's Advocacy Coordinator at Right to Protection. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting.
So, first, according to the latest data from the International Organization for Migration, 44% of surveyed IDPs intend to vote in the next presidential and parliamentary election. What about the rest? Is it because they don't know about their rights? Is it because they don't want to be involved in the process? Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, sure. First, maybe we should mention that through 5 years from the beginning of the conflict, there were no information regarding the access to the voting rights for IDPs and those residing on occupied territories. And in September 2018, the Central Election Commission have adopted a resolution that actually permits the internally displaced and residents of occupied territories to participate in the elections as voters. So the procedure would be as follows. In order to participate and vote on the day of elections, the person should re-register the voting address by addressing the central body administrating the voting registry and submitting an application to change the address of voting on the day of elections. So the procedure is quite simple. That provides a simplified opportunity for IDPs to re-register the voting address and to vote on in the location which is most comfortable for a person or to vote on the day of the elections. R2P, the Right to Protection Fund, the one I'm representing, actually works on a daily basis on all 5 entry-exit checkpoints with occupied territories. So we started working with people traveling to or from occupied territories, informing them about the opportunity, how they can change the voting address and participate in elections. Unfortunately, only up to 30% of people we've contacted during our survey and communications knew about the opportunity to participate and actually expressed the will to participate in elections. Somehow, after the information being provided to people on the procedure, some people have changed their mind and actually told us they would prefer to participate in elections. So this procedure provides them with an opportunity to influence the direct democracy and actually to participate and give their vote for the candidate they would like to become a president of Ukraine.
But on a practical level, if I may, those residents in occupied territories are facing a practical and technical problem, which is going through the checkpoints, which takes a lot of time. A lot of involvement. Sometimes you have like I don't know how many million of people crossing. The last OSCE report is absolutely horrifying about it, and so that might also be one of the things that stops them to say, okay, I'm not going to go on these territories because it's going to take time and to process.
One of the biggest problems, of course, is the length of the crossing. It takes up to 5 hours. We conduct regular monitoring on checkpoints, and of course, we are witnessing the shortening of the terms that people spend waiting in queues in order to pass the check-in on the checkpoints. And of course, if we get back to the context of elections, that would mean that if people are planning to travel on the day of elections in order to participate in the elections, that the checkpoints issue can become a big problem. First, because that would take an effort from Ukrainian side, to proceed the number of people crossing to governmentally controlled areas, and of course it contains some risks
also for them because
from the occupied territories, because we we've witnessed numerously the situations when, the other side checkpoints are keeping people till the last minute of the opening hours, and then they just push hundreds of people to Ukrainian side. So people, in some cases, had to spend overnight in the 0 point undersellings. And of course, Ukrainian side was doing their best to proceed those people to governmentally controlled areas. We have a feeling that this might happen on the day of elections. So when we consult people trying, to persuade them or to explain them procedure or regarding the participation in elections, we suggest them to come to governmentally controlled area 5-6 days before the election, because the procedure of change of this voting address change will last till March 25th. So 5 days before elections, you are not able to change the address. So in order to to make everything done, you need to be here before 25th. And spend those 5 days on governmentally controlled areas. If we talk about the parliamentary elections, there is a slight difference between the presidential and parliamentary elections, because IDPs and occupied territories residents will be able to participate only in the parliamentary voting for the party lists. It means that they cannot elect their representatives to the parliament on the community basis. And it is very important in terms of the presidential elections to note one detail. The change of the election address before the first tour of presidential elections does not provide an IDP or occupied territories resident with an opportunity to vote in the second tour.
Okay, so it would have to redo the procedure after.
You have to pass it again before the second tour.
Now, would you say that it could come to the mind of some IDPs not to register, first that the figure of the internal displaced person here in Ukraine are accurate, and does it sometimes come to the mind of some IDPs not to register because they don't want to be considered and to fall under this, kind of gap in the population?
In general, the numbers named by many international organizations working with IDPs would be about 700,000 people, from 700,000 to 800,000 people. We've examined a number of practical or world experiences in that issue. For example, our Georgian colleagues, let's say, when they faced that situation, they were doing their best in order to renew or revive the social connections of people on occupied territories through simplified access to medical care, to pensions, to social payments, and so on.
Yeah, I guess, and that's what your organization do, and thank you for that, and thank you for this interview. It was a pleasure to have you in the studio today to talk about this dire situation.
Thank you.
That was Darina Tolkach, Advocacy Coordinator at Right to Protection. Thank you for watching the program, and stay tuned for the rest.